This is the Coin It Podcast, sponsored by VCD Auctions. Have fun like a collector. Think like an investor. Whether you're just a hobbyist or looking for an alternative investment with rare coins, paper money, NFTs, or art, your host, Charles Jonath, is covering it all. Now your host, Charles Jonath.
All right, we're here with Zelfie Taylor. He's the founder of Taylor Insurance and Financial Services. He's also a public speaker, and he's one of the leading financial advisors to many professional athletes as well as entertainers. So I wanted to start off this, Zelfie, because, you got a lot going on, especially, you're starring in a new hit show, which is like really, people are saying great things about, saying I have to see it, sending me links and everything, called Mind, Body, Money, which is a very cool concept. I still have yet to see it. I'm embarrassed, but I'll get around to it. But I wanted to ask you, because financial services, it's not something that people think of a lot of. And I'm always curious, like how people get involved in financial service and why they gravitate towards that industry, or what made them get into the industry. So how did you get started in all of this stuff?
Sure. I grew up Southern California, I guess, middle class, if that even exists anymore.
Right.
My father was a doctor. My mother was a government employee. So I was one of those kids who didn't have everything I wanted, but I had everything that I needed. So I was blessed. And,
Right.
I had a flair for the dramatic, wanted to be super successful as I graduated college, and, had set a very modest goal coming out of school at 22 when I graduated college to become a millionaire by the time I was 25. And I figured 3 years was ample time.
Really?
To get there, right? And
Right.
Unfortunately, again, I didn't have this entrepreneurial path laid out for me. My parents were really, again, employees. And so by chance, I found my way into financial services, and immediately I took to it because I realized I wasn't going to be paid by my age or my tenure. I was going to be paid for my work ethic and aptitude and the things I actually accomplished. And so growing up, not having all the things again that I wanted, again, I had what I needed, but all the things that I wanted, I said, man, when I have a family, I'm going to get them everything, right? I'm going to, all the toys, the house, everything. And so that was kind of my leading motivation, to be honest, when I started, and that shifted as I progressed through my career, and that I realized, like, wow, the byproduct of me helping people is that I make money. So the more people that I help, the more people that I impact, then the more money that I make, right? So people go,
Right.
man, you do well, you make a lot of money. And I'm like, oh, I help a lot of people, right? And so, financial services in general is one of these areas where people typically have some challenging attachments, to money or wanting to dive into it. And I was on the phone with a client the other day who was joking with me, and I was like, she's like, I'm not avoiding you. I like you as a person, but every time you talk to me about money, like my head spins, so I don't answer your call.
They get nervous about it, right?
Yeah. So my thing is when you know better, you can do better.
Right.
So I don't tell people what to do as much as I explain to people, this is how it works. And when you understand how things work, one, that alleviates a lot of anxiety and stress that you have because you understand it, and then do or don't do what you want.
Absolutely.
But I can't stand to have anyone in my circle fail because they didn't know about something, right? If I teach you something or show you something or make an introduction and you choose not to do it, it's your life, it's your money, do whatever you want, right? But we don't want to fail because we are paralyzed, because we didn't act.
It's a funny thing, because you got to really, to be successfully financially, it's sort of a math problem that you have to solve. And the more you can remove the emotion from it and look at it objectively and see, okay, how can we accomplish this based on what are the key elements? What are the variables? Like, what do I have right now and what I could do to enhance my portfolio or build my finances and reach my financial goals ultimately. So it's doing that, but people then get emotional about it. And it's sort of being able to balance that and understand, like, to have a plan and make that goal where you're gonna be financially set and meet your goal.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I think that, I tell people my recommendations are typically based on math and science, right? Like, these are the numbers. This is what the law is. like it or not, this is what it is.
Sure.
Your sentiment certainly matters, right? And sometimes, sentiment can trump math and science. But for me, I tell people, this is how this works. This is what the math and science suggests, but how do you feel about it? And in an ideal world, you marry the two. You take the practical numbers and functionality of certain planning tools, and then the way you feel about it and things you want to see, and go from there. Like, even on the tax planning side, right? There's significant tax deductions to investing in oil and gas. But for someone who's like, well, I might reduce my income tax liability, but I believe in green energy alone, and I don't want to do anything that doesn't support that, then in that situation, maybe your personal, viewpoint trumps, a tax deduction. To some others, they're like, I don't care, right? Whatever.
Sure.
But teach his own, right? Teach his own.
Yeah, no, I mean, and there's all kinds of things you could figure out with that too. Like, the eco financing has become a whole big world now. It started like back in 09, 08, even after the crash, when they were looking at companies and they set up specific funds to only focus in on green investments. And now they got companies doing analytics on companies and they're ranking them based on how green they are. So there's all kinds of these vehicles that you could use based on, your opinion and stuff like that too. But having an understanding of finance is super important, because that's how, ultimately you achieve your financial goals, like based on what your income is. And then investing, I felt that investing is the way out of your situation, because it's not going to happen just by income. You're going to get paid at your job. Then the tax man's going to come. And then after that, you're going to be left in the same cycle. And the way it's going, it's hard to break out of that. The only really way I've seen people break out, and even myself including, is by investing. Investing has been, the way to success. So I don't see any other way around it, really.
Yeah, trading time for dollars is a zero-sum game, right?
Right,
exactly. Because we all only have so many hours in a day, we can all only earn so much money. But when you let your money work for you, right, and compounding interest and tax deferral and all these tremendous things, then it works, right? Like, as I'm talking to you right now, right, I own 9 companies, right? Someone in the world is eating at my restaurant. Someone in the world is just bought a pint of my ice cream. Someone in the world is streaming one of my videos, right? And that's how you can really scale. And I say this, right? You can get rich working, right? But not wealthy, right? Wealth comes from scale. Wealth comes from, from having, things in a business that runs in spite of you, not because
Absolutely.
of you.
Absolutely. And even high income earners, a lot of times what makes them wealthy is that the investments that they do with that excess money, so
yes. Yeah.
Acquiring assets. I mean, those are the things that, fiat money is not all it's cracked up to be. It's just a means to an end. So if you can use that as a vehicle to make the proper investments and acquire assets, that's really how you're going to bail yourself out. So 100%. What you're doing is super important. I mean, there's so many people, especially, in the world of athletes. I think, a lot of lessons have been learned and what not to do, with money and how to invest properly. And that's going to be what saves you in the end, because figure maybe you only have so many years to really play on that type of elite level, and before your body just gives out or you can't do it anymore for whatever reason.
They say that NFL stands for not for long, right? And so
I never heard that before. That's good.
You get a 3-year, 5-year window, and maybe in that period of time you make what other people might make in a 20 or 30-year window, right? And you have to be, I would say, like, an athlete or an entertainer actually has to be more disciplined than a traditional, professional, business professional, right? Because my doctor or my lawyer client who has a 30, 40-year, income earning trajectory, they can come back from, not making the best financial decisions in the first 5-10 years of their career. An athlete generally cannot, right? If you've blown the first 10 years of your contracts and you're 32, like, hey, I want to get right, like,
it's rough, right? Yeah, no, for sure.
It's tough.
No, absolutely. I mean, out of all the things, I know primarily you have different insurance vehicles and stuff that you put clients into, but then also the market, obviously. I would imagine you got a lot of these guys probably in like ETFs and index funds, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in business for over 23 years. And, my business has always been split into these two parts, right? You've got the insurance and protection aspect, and you have the accumulation aspect. And so through the course of my career, I've got a Series 6, 63, 65, and 7, and all these securities licenses. And actually here recently in the last couple of months, I've succeeded the securities part of my practice to my partner, who's running a new subset of the practice called Precision Planning Group, where it's highly, high touch focus, on those, specific things, right? On the equity side and the planning side. Because the challenge for me again is that I'm one person, right? So if I'm doing the insurance and doing the investments and doing the financial planning and doing, the tax
you can't
planning,
do it all. Yeah.
I can only have so many. And what I'm thinking even now, like, it's like, dude, I call what I affectionately refer to as the sickness, right? Like I'm, I go. But again, I have a bandwidth. And so by splitting that, having someone else that I know, like, trust, and have mentored to run that, that side for clients, and then me be able to focus singularly on the other side, on the protection and the tax planning side, which I really love, is, it takes a village. I tell people, if you wanted to actually a sound financial plan, you want like a great picture, you would need to hire probably 5 or 6 people, right? Because you're going to need your insurance professional, your investment advisor, a great accountant, a great attorney, right? Banking services, right? You need all of those things, right? And the challenge is that, people might have a relationship with 1 or 2 of those people and think like, oh, I'm good, I've got a financial advisor, I've got a banker, I've got a great accountant, but there's still, other things, right? And so I I refer to what I call macro perspective. You want to look at the entire picture, right? Not just your insurance, not just your investments, not just your tax filing, but how do all of these things, work, and then more importantly, work together for my good.
It's like an umbrella policy or something, it's just having, for sure.
Yeah. Everything.
You, especially with investments, understanding the tax implications of it, it allows you to understand how you're going to maneuver it over time, and when you need to sell, when probably is not a good time to sell.
Well, and that goes a long way, right? I say paying less in taxes is just as good as getting a raise, right? So understanding the difference between, paying, long-term capital gains tax versus ordinary income tax versus taxable investments versus tax deferred things, right? Exchanges, things like that. So all of that comes into play, right? And I love the tax planning aspect of work because it allows me to quantify my value, right? No one who's investing your money can tell you this is exactly what you're going to earn. Like, hey, you invest with me and this is exactly what you're going to earn, right? And if they do tell you, I'd run the opposite way, because now they can say, well, historically, or I anticipate and such, but no one can tell you, like, if you put money in the S&P 500, you're going to get this, or you buy this piece of real estate, you're going to get that. No one can tell you. What I love about tax planning is that you can quantify a number, right? So if you make $500,000 and you reduce your tax bill by 10%, that's $50,000, right? Reducing your taxable income by $50,000, right, is like getting a $50,000 raise.
No,
right.
Absolutely.
So I like that. And then that's $50,000 that can go into, debt elimination, or go into, investments or whatever. Right. And so I always tell people, look, when it comes to tax planning, right, you can do what I say or not, but you're going to write a check to somebody, right? It's going to be to your plans or to Uncle Sam. You choose.
That's interesting. It's true. Yeah, no, 100%. So like with Taylor Financial and stuff like that, generally, do you guys have like a prospectus or something that you do, like someone that's in charge of, like, would be your quote unquote chief financial advisor? I mean, do you guys come up with a plan ahead of time based on the current market conditions and all that, or is it basically on the particular needs of each individual client?
Yeah, exactly. When we work with a client, there's not like, I don't have like, hey, this is our model, get into the model. Everything is high touch and specifically contoured to the individual. Because one of the things I pride myself in, I say all the time, is I don't want to undo any good work. So if there's something in your financial world that you're doing that you like, that's working for you, I'm not going to change it for the sake of changing it. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm just looking for the areas of vulnerability. I'm looking for the things that you haven't done yet, or the things that maybe you're doing that could be done maybe better. Right. And so so that's really what we call in our intake or our fact finding process, where it's like, give me all the data. right? Give me the data, right? The actual hard numbers, and then give me the why. I also want the sentiment. That matters too. And then the answer to those questions, that then reveals opportunity and then will ultimately dictate the plan.
No,
right? So,
absolutely. Yeah. Because I think, you're going to have clients that are probably more in the building phase and then other ones that are more in the fixed income phase, so it's going to vary. Yeah. That makes sense. What are new developments that you're seeing right now as far as like clients? I know before you left, now you've been more focused on doing your outside projects, but when you were last deep into the financial services aspect of your business, what were the big changes you were seeing in regards to rising rates? Was there like not as many people doing like annuities and policies because like treasuries started to pay more, or just little things like that?
It's been interesting. I've got a 23-year track record now, right? And so when I first started in the business, it was not uncommon to just, if you wanted 5-6% of your money, just to go to the bank. Right. You just go to the bank, put your money in a CD and you're fine. Right. But as interest rates, dropped, right. And now you're getting 1%, 2% in a CD. I affectionately call CDs at the time certificates of depreciation.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because if inflation's going up 3-4% and you're getting 1% on your money,
you're paying them you're essentially paying them.
You're losing purchasing power. So it's been probably 15 plus years, 16 years for me since I've seen rates where you're finding 4 and 5 and 6% fixed income, right? So it does change the landscape a bit, but there's a drag. So you're still seeing in traditional insurance products pay a higher rate than traditional fixed income products.
Okay. So they're keeping pace.
It's just that interest rates have risen faster than the insurance companies have iterated their products. So what I've seen is, for example, when the Feds increase rates, you're not seeing a new iteration of a product come out that same week, right? But what you are seeing is that I'd say typically like there's a quarter lag, right? So when you're seeing rates go up, the Fed increases rates, you are seeing crediting rates and things go up from the carrier. So I see with different insurance products and crediting rates, I've seen some of them, double the same way interest rates have doubled. So there is still that correlation.
So they're catching up essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I look at it like, and that's why it's so important to continue to look at your plans. You could create the perfect quote unquote plan today, but like I did at Eszylfie, insurance locked in, investments locked in, estate plan done, business structure done, right?
Right.
And depending on how the market flows, how laws change, how family dynamics change, your plan could be trash.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so now, oh man. And that's not to say that the things that you did at the time were bad. It's just
your needs changed.
Needs change, conditions change, markets change, laws change. And so you need to work with a group of people that are going to be up there. So you can't say, oh, I've created this financial plan or I did this estate plan, I'm going to put it away, man, fold your hands back and like, I'm done. Like, nah, we got to keep revisiting and massaging and reviewing what you have.
Yeah. I mean, and then it becomes like, it depends on the amount of capital too. Like sometimes, people that are high net worth, you know what I mean? Like if you have to deploy a lot of capital, it's a full-time job, right? It's like,
yeah. I mean, they what Biggie said it, right? More money,
more problems.
You got to deal with it. And it's a challenge and a good problems to have, I guess, but
absolutely
still challenging nonetheless. I think, as I look back of my career, I think one of the most financially freeing times that I feel I ever had was like when I made 10 times less than I'm making right now, right? I was in this like sweet spot where I was making, decent money, 6 figures, couple $100,000 a year, right? And
it's a nice place to be, right? Like,
my mortgage was like $2,800. I'm like, man, this is kind of good, right? I didn't make so much that with just some basic tax planning could mitigate tax. So there, and so you gotta be conscious that making a lot of money and owning all these companies also is great, but it comes with a
lot
different set
of
of
stress,
responsibilities
a lot of
and
work,
challenges and
yeah.
things to navigate as well. And so I think that's
Oh,
the
I know.
biggest thing that myself and my team bring to the table for our clients. I think by my estimation, I've done something like 30,000 client meetings in my career. 30,000.
Jeez.
Right. So ask me a question I haven't heard before.
Right.
Give me a challenge I haven't seen before. Not going to happen. And so I'm bringing not only my personal experiences with all the companies and things that I've done and seen, but that of all the clients and all the other people that I have in my network to the table for my clients as well. So that's a lot of value.
No, absolutely. So I'm curious, as far as like, because what's done really well for me, obviously I'm in the industry, but has been collectibles and rare coins, things of that nature. So have you seen anything with your clients in regards to that and them getting interested in sort of that whole field as a tangible asset?
Yeah, I mean, there's all what I would call alternative asset classes for people to invest in, and personally, I haven't delved too much into that into that world, but you talk about fiat money, paper money, and what's it worth? Well, what's it backed by? And there's a massive debate out there that
Right.
If the dollar was taken off of the world's currency, like what would actually happen, right? Like cringe to think. So there's value to having hard assets, actual gold, actual silver, right? And things. So look, I don't believe in perfect products. I can make any vehicle sound good, and I can poke holes through the same offering.
Right.
I do, however, believe in perfect planning through balance and diversification. I don't think people should put all of the money in any
one
one
basket.
asset
Yeah,
class,
absolutely.
right? Like, that's a recipe for disaster, right? And we see that whether it be through hard assets like collectibles, coins, arts, and the like. We've seen, the rise and subsequent now crash of the crypto, market, which, I think again, still has utility and will make its resurgence. But,
Yeah,
again,
no, absolutely.
I had a call with the client a couple of weeks ago, and I'm following up with them like, hey, what's going on? He goes, oh, nothing. I just lost $18 million in this FTX debacle. Like, what I'm saying?
Man.
So, it's this, but it's the same person, 2 years ago. I'm like, why don't you take some chips off the table and do that? No, look at what's doing, right? And it's like, that's that adage, right? Pigs get that, and the hogs get what?
Yeah.
Slaughter.
Yeah.
Right. So balance and diversification to me is key.
Yeah. I'm a proponent of that. But I also think it depends on what phase you're into, I think when you're just getting started and you're really trying to grow capital at a more rapid rate, it's better to be hyper focused. But then once you have a quite a bit of money, then it's better to be diversified, is what I've found.
Yeah, I think again, when you realize this is a marathon.
So depending on your goals, right?
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And again, it's like, dude, I've worked with people that never made more than $100,000 a year in their working career that retire multimillionaires.
Sure.
I've worked with people that make $100,000 a week that live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not what you make, is what you keep. But yeah, I even think in the beginning, having a diversified plan, I think to your point, which I always say again, affordability dictates your purchase decision, right? So if I can only afford to save $500 a month, how much diversification am I,
you're going to have,
really
right? Exactly.
Integrating into my plan, because I can only, put so much away. But to your point, as income grows, as your ability to invest more and to get into varying asset classes, grows, then you can certainly spread out.
Right. So like, yeah, I mean, I've made a living as an investor technically. So, I mean, through my business or whatever, if that's hyper focused investment all in one place where I have control, I understand the market, I'm growing my wealth, whatever. And then it comes to a time where as your money increases, then you have to become diversified. And, that's when you want something like to the extent of what you're talking about, where if one market were to go down, you have a hedge against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And so
even with Warren Buffett and those guys, so like early on in those days, even though they're real value guys, in the early days of the value investing, what they would do is they would look at companies that sort of had one life left in it and they were just undervalued in the general market. And they would find these specific investments, go all in on one or two positions, and then make, a substantial return once the market corrected. So, and once they made enough money to do that, then the investments, as you see them, they become way more stable, like Coke,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's like how do you create significant waves without taking risk? Right. And look,
It's
that's
hard.
where
It's very hard.
understanding someone's risk tolerance comes into play. Because look, if you say I'm conservative or I'm moderate, there's nothing wrong with that. Right. Just know you're not getting a 50% return in the year on your money. Right. And
Yeah,
there's nothing
absolutely.
wrong
Yeah.
with that because
No,
that's it.
absolutely.
And then you have to also recognize, oh, yeah, I want the 50% return. And then you also have to then be willing to lose 50%. You recognize it as well, right? You know,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
as long as
all the
you
time.
get those things, and then that's great. But look, statistically, 1 out of 3 billionaires has filed bankruptcy, which is a clearing depiction to me that, like, in order to create that level of wealth, you swung away, right? You took some
risks, yeah.
right. And so
Exactly.
my whole mantra, and even for me, like by nature, I'm a gunslinger, right? There's only a 1 in a million chances to work, Eszylfie. So you're saying there's a chance, right? Like that's how that's how I'm wired. But to not lose sight of the slow and steady.
Well,
right.
there's calculated risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think my opinion has always been to take calculated risk, to stick to sort of what you know, and take a calculated risk where you have some sort of advantage, where you have a knowledge base, or you have the right help in some instances, like you got the right team behind you in order to be able to take this risk, and get a successful outcome. So I think, in understanding what you can afford to lose, right? So yeah, all those coming together seem to be ways where you can make these little battles along the way, and then if you win, then boom, now you elevated yourself to the next level. But if you lose, maybe it's not going to necessarily kill you.
Yeah, that's an ideal world, right? And that's the thing. You can't take risk with money. Same thing with lending money, right? You can't do that with money you can't afford to lose.
Exactly.
Right? Because you could.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, it was great. It was a pleasure. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm glad we got into all this stuff. And I'm really curious, we should do a follow-up to this, because I know down the line, as we get more into collaborating and doing different things in the field of rare coins, we could follow up and then do more on that and see what the interest is there. So
yeah, no,
absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, I know a lot about a little bit, right? And in my space, like, I'm that guy, and I recognize there's a lot of things I don't know. And so I love collaborating with other people that know a lot about a little bit, and doing magical things together. But, again, my whole mantra is I'm going to die with memories, not dreams, right? So I'm going to grow, I'm going to swing, I'm going to, continue to be better every day. And I love collaborating with like-minded people. So it's such a pleasure and an honor to share with you today.
No, absolutely. And I think you'll like it, because the world of collectibles is so diverse. It's like the market itself, there's, in the collectible worlds, there's more stable investments that are very sort of less volatile, pretty much safe, like blue chip style investing. And then there's things like the Wild Wild West, which is like crypto and like different things like NFTs, right? So yeah, I mean, it varies. There's a whole spectrum on it. So I'm really curious to get more into depth with it with you, and then see, get your opinion on it, because I'd love for you to find the areas where you think, oh, well, I don't understand this part, or this is confusing to me, or why would we do things that way? Because it's great to have people from the outside to look into it and add something there, And
oh yeah, I mean, if when I enter into a realm that I'm not familiar with, I literally tell people, like, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old.
Exactly. Right? So and ask lots of questions.
Right? And then the other side of it is what's it's people typically lead with the value and the good, and I also want to know, what's the bad? Where can I get hurt? How can I lose?
Exactly.
Right. And if I understand something, and I understand what the upside is, and I understand where the vulnerabilities are, then I can make a decision on whether it's right for me or not.
Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, for sure. Well, thanks, Zelfie. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to watching Mind Body Money.
Yeah, Mind Body Money. Look out! We're working on actually some massive distribution partnerships going into the new year. So super excited about that. So
that's awesome.
So stay tuned.
Where is it on right now? Where are you guys playing on?
So right now you can find all the information at mindbodymoney.com. So we have a website where you can see some of the trailers and sizzles. I also have an app on the App Store, mind.body.money. So you can get tools on mindset, body, and financial tools. And then look for us on a major streaming platform. I have to wait and get my publicist's permission to give the next the green light on the platform. It will be out, but both network and streaming platforms, you'll find us in 2023. In the interim, check out mindbodymoney.com or follow me, on my social at Eszylfie Taylor, and I'll keep you updated.
Awesome. And then send me the links too, or have your assistant send me the links. I'll put them all in the description.
Will do. Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you.
man. Take care. Pleasure. So
Appreciate you.
I'll talk to you later.